Welcome back, guys, to the BGF Podcast, episode 13. I'm your host, Jaluk, alongside of
Brandon.
And today, we got the NFC East, baby. Let's talk about them Eagles.
One of the most popular divisions in the NFL.
Well, that's going to be a really competitive one.
One of the better ones. And plus now, with the Eagles' new jerseys, you like them.
Everyone likes the Eagles in New Jersey. I've never seen so many media critics just, loving one team.
No, but it is a nice jersey.
They are nice. Bringing back the old school, that green, and it is nice. I have to say it's nice.
And before we start, we got one piece of news I wanted to ask you about. What do you think about Daniil Hunter now that he signed the 1 year, $20 million?
Finally getting the deal done. It's about time. It is a lot of money, but then again, it's a 1 year prove-it deal, so I'm okay with it. So it doesn't do good, whatever, you get rid of him next year. But another thing I really like is Brian Flores is putting him back on that line. Putting him back at that defensive end position where he belongs. This man dropped into coverage 34 times last season. That is 34 times too many. He should never be dropping into coverage. He is a pass rusher.
Exactly.
Send him after the quarterback. And I was watching this practice yesterday. I haven't seen this many blitzes since Mike Zimmer, and I am so excited. But yeah, no, I think I'm really excited about it. Honestly, putting him at the defensive end position, especially, is just music to my ears. I've been waiting for this. I've been screaming for it last season.
Because what did the sack numbers look like last year? They weren't great.
Like 9.5, 10 sacks still.
Jumping
into coverage
it's all
34 times.
For the position that he was put in,
it was linebacker.
9.5, 10 sacks, not bad.
It's an outside linebacker last year. He's not good in coverage. He's not a coverage guy.
Yeah,
he's a pass rusher. That's what he is.
Yeah, I don't know what Ed Donato was on last year. Him and Zadarius going in coverage. I
don't know. That we could have had, honestly, one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. Between him and Zadarius, just send them after the quarterback. Get Dalvin Tomlinson in the middle. It would have been really good.
The diesel
just did not work, but it's okay. We move on. This season, rejuvenated, looking good. I'm ready.
Brian Flores gonna have that defense ready every week.
Honestly, Byron Murphy Jr. is really good. I was watching some tapes on him too. Holy crap, he's guarding Jefferson tight.
That's good to hear for them because who were the starting corners from last year? P Squared and who else?
I don't know. You had Patrick Peterson. You had
Cameron Tiny Dansley.
Yeah, he was there, but he wasn't really starting. Yeah. And then you had Caleb Evans was starting, and there was another Channing Sullivan.
So it wasn't great. So Byron Murphy's a good addition.
Byron Murphy's a huge piece. I'm excited for that.
Because now it's Andrew Booth is back. So
Andrew Booth. Right now the rotation's looking like Byron Murphy, Andrew Booth, and Caleb Evans, which I'm okay with. You got Cam Bynum playing as your fourth corner, potentially safety. Josh Metellus is playing all over the field, which looks really good in camp. And look, I just want the season to start.
Anyway, that's enough Vikings talk. We're not here to talk about the Vikings.
No, we're not.
So we're gonna move on now to we're gonna start off with the Philadelphia Eagles schedule.
The reigning Super Bowl losers.
Good. They shouldn't have been there.
But no, honestly, this team got better.
That defensive line was already amazing. They lose Hargrave, but they bring in Jalen Carter, so it doesn't really miss much of a beat. I
know, it's just crazy. What an offseason once again for the Eagles. I mean, when is this team ever going to slow down? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, but they do have some older pieces, especially on their secondary with Bradbury and Slay. So.
Yeah, but they're still playing at an elite level. Especially last season, especially Bradbury, a very underrated corner, doesn't get talked about too much. Because
he was a cut guy from the Giants. So.
Yeah, no, but he comes into the Eagles, plays as the second. You got Slay taking all the media attention, and Bradbury just doing his thing very, very good. But no, I mean, look, this Eagles team, one of the best teams in the league once again.
Yeah, we're expecting a Super Bowl run from them yet again.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if you tell me they win the Super Bowl, if they make it to the Super Bowl.
Losing the NFC Championship to the Niners.
Lose to the Niners, but that's a topic for Brandon. But no, man, I'm really excited for this Eagles roster, and I mean, let's get
into it. Week 1, where they faced the New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium, on the road for their first game. But I think they should easily take care of business.
I think they're gonna stomp the Patriots. I don't think it's gonna be a close game. Obviously, we'll see how ready this Eagles roster is week 1, but I think they're going to come out running and they're just going to... I think Nick Sirianni is a really good head coach. Get the team ready in the offseason and beat the Pats, moving on to 1-0 on the season.
Yep, same with me. Actually,
before we forget
again, here we go. Just so we could get the one.
So we can keep up with what we say.
So yeah, 1-0 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next up, this is a game we've gone over like 2 weeks ago. So in case you guys didn't watch that video, we have the Eagles winning this game. Thursday night primetime game against the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's going to be too much. The Vikings are going to be a good team this year, but I think the Eagles roster is going to be too much for them.
No, that's it. I think the Vikings will put on more of a fight if they have Eagles win. I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
Anyways, week 3, moving on. Going down to Tampa, Monday, September 25th.
Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to give another win for the Eagles, and they're going to start off 3-0 like they did last year.
That's for sure. But honestly, one thing I want to mention, I think teams are going to be gunning for them early on.
Mm-hmm.
Like last season, they started off strong, and teams weren't expecting the Eagles to be good.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
Whereas this year, like, people are going to be gunning at beating the Eagles early on.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, let's move on. We got week 4, first divisional game against the Commanders. You're playing at home. I think the Eagles roster is going to be a little too much for the Commanders this season. But obviously, remember last season they were the first team to beat them. So I can see them splitting with the Commanders and the Cowboys once again.
Yeah, me too. So
And I wouldn't be shocked if they dropped one to the Giants at a certain point, but we'll see how that turns out.
I'm going to go with another Eagles win, 4-0.
Yeah, I agree with that. 4-0 on the year. And week 5, you're moving on to LA. You're going to play the Rams.
Another game we went over last week. I think we
the
both.
Rams a loss here. I'm pretty sure. I'm giving the Eagles a win.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. For a second, I thought you said you were giving the Eagles a loss.
No.
But yeah, I think we both gave them a win here. The Eagles, so 5-0. Another strong start. Like last year, they were the last undefeated team last year. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, they lost in like week 13, 14.
We're looking at the schedule. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the case again, to be honest.
No, that's it. Week 7, though, you're going to New York.
Week 6.
You're playing. Week 6. My bad. You're playing the Jets. Here, I'm actually going to give the Eagles a loss.
Same.
Because I just feel like they won't go on that. It's really hard for NFL teams to replicate the same streak.
Okay, this is not a primetime game. This looks like this would be a good prime timer, though.
Yeah, it would be a good prime timer, and I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers has like a point to prove in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Jets are going to be very underrated for most people, and teams won't take them as seriously as they should. And this is going to be one of those trap games for the Eagles where they just, they go in there riding 5 games in a row, high on momentum, and
take a
trap game in
loss.
the Jets, take a surprise loss here.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. So we're both out of them at 5-1 right now.
Yes, sir. Week 7, you're moving on back at home against Miami.
This is a tough game for them. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game, a prime time again.
Offenses are going to be running both sides.
But I think this is going to be too much for the Dolphins. I don't think their offense can hang with Philly just because of Tua.
Yeah.
I don't think he could run with Jalen Hurts, to be honest. So
I have to agree with you there. And I'm going to
6-1.
6-1 on the season for the Eagles.
Week 8, back against the Commanders, and I think here is where their second loss of the season is coming. The Commanders always play the Eagles very tough.
They do. They really do.
Especially the Commanders' defensive line with Montez Sweat and Jonathan Allen. So I think this is going to be another loss for them, and they move on to 6-2.
No, for sure. And then you're moving on back at home. You're playing Dallas. Week 9, right before the bye. After taking an L against Washington, I have a hard time giving them a second loss against Dallas.
Same.
I give them the win here solely because they're at home, and I think they're going to have the edge over Dallas.
I agree. So 7-2 going into their bye. I'm sure their fans would be very happy with that.
Week 10 bye, then after the bye, you move on to a Super Bowl rematch.
Man, they got a tough 5-game stretch here. Wow.
Well, listen, you make it to the Super Bowl, you got to expect this.
Yeah, that is down.
And I mean, look, here, Week 11, you're coming off the bye.
At Arrowhead.
This is a really tough look, but I think I'm going to edge the Eagles here.
In the Super Bowl rematch.
You know what? I
I don't even know what I'm going to do. You said You said Eagles here?
I'm edging Eagles here in a Super Bowl rematch. I think the team is going to be upset. They're going to remember what happened to them, and they're going to want to prove that they are better than them.
With the week's rest, you know what? I'm going to agree with you. We'll go Eagles.
The only reason I'm giving that's exactly what I was about to say. The only reason I'm giving them this win is because of the week rest.
And plus, it's going to be a game that they really are gunning for because of what happened.
They're going to be training 2 weeks for this game.
Mm-hmm. And we know that they can obviously hang with the Chiefs with how close that Super Bowl was.
It was a good Super Bowl. Anyways, that's a Monday nighter. Then week 12, you move on to
Lincoln
Sunday.
Financial Field. They play the Buffalo Bills in week 12. And you know what? I'm going to give them a loss here, I think. They're going to be riding high from that game against KC, and it's going to be a sort of hangover game. The Bills are a really good football team. And going against Dallas and then going up against KC, Buffalo, like this is a really tough string of game.
It's a tough stretch.
So I think they're going to take a loss to Buffalo and move to 8-3.
I am also going to give them a loss. You know, playing KC on a Monday, then having only 4 days rest to play Buffalo on a Sunday is not easy. And the Buffalo Bills are a very good football team, and I do see them taking the Eagles here, moving them on to 8-3 on the season. Then Eagles.
Again at home, but they play against the San Francisco 49ers.
Week 13.
Another game we went over last week. And I obviously said that the Niners were going to win that because of how much it means to them this game.
I'm going to give the Eagles the win here. I don't see them losing 2 games in a row this season. Just personally, I don't think it's going to happen. So, yeah, I'm going to edge Eagles here against the Niners. But I would not be shocked if the Niners win. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a very, very good, fun matchup.
And it's not a prime time. This should be a prime time game.
Almost prime time, 4:30. And you go back, week 14, you're playing Dallas, second time in a row. Second time this season, sorry. After playing the Niners, I'm actually going to edge Cowboys just because of how physical that Niners game is going to be. I think players are going to be really, really tired, and they won't be able to hang up with. They will be able to play with Dallas, but they're just going to be too tired and too beat up to hang with Dallas at that point in the season. And I'm going to give them a loss here.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a win here. I think they'll be able to sweep Dallas in the season series this year and move on to 9-4. Next up, they got Seattle at Lumen Field on the road. I'm going to give them a win here, I think. Seattle's a much improved roster this year, but I don't think it's going to matter much against the Eagles.
Yeah, no, I agree with you here. I think I'm going to give them a win as well. Like I said earlier, I don't see them losing 2 games in a row.
Mm-hmm. So next up, they play the Giants at home. Another game I think they should be able to take care of the Giants pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a win here, especially at home. Then you move on to week 17, you play the Cardinals at home. I think
not even a question.
Are going to smash the Cardinals right before the playoffs. And I have them sitting before week 18 at 12-4.
Same here, and I think against New York. You said you thought they were going to split, but for me, I don't think they're splitting.
Here's the thing with this New York game, right? It depends the circumstances. If the Eagles, say, clinch the 1 seed, I can see the Giants winning this one. But if the Eagles are fighting for the 1 and they need this game, I see the Eagles winning.
No, I think, well, at least in our case, they're going to be at 12-4. I don't think 12-4 is going to be good enough to have it wrapped up by then. So I think this is going to be a game they're going to need to win. I think they'll win it and move to 13-4.
Yeah,
very good.
I agree. 13-4 on the year for me as well. Very good season for the Eagles.
One of the best teams in the NFC. 13-4. What did they finish last year?
I think 14-3.
Okay, one game with a much harder schedule, only dropping one more game than last year is.
I think the Eagles fan would be really pleased with this one.
Mm-hmm. So now next up, we're gonna move on to America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, a team that earlier this week we did a deep dive on their team. So if you want to check that out, you guys can go on the channel and check that one out.
So we'll just get right into the schedule for the Cowboys. Then Dallas Cowboys.
Just gonna pull up the schedule.
It's a pretty fair schedule, I have to say, for Dallas, which is always fair for them for whatever reason. They have a few fun matchups here early on, and it should be interesting.
So yeah, they play the Giants in week 1 at MetLife. I'm going to go ahead and give them a win.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see Dallas dropping the first game of the season. I think they're going to be too much for this New York Giants team. Their offense for the Giants is very unknown. We don't know what to expect, especially with Saquon not getting tagged. Is he going to play? What's going to happen there? And I think too much question marks are just going to be... It's going to be too much to handle for the Giants. The Cowboys are going to take this one.
Especially the Giants wide receiver room. I just don't think they addressed it.
No, they got... I mean, maybe people are saying Julian Hyatt is going to be the one.
But I think he's more of a deep threat, and I don't know how much of an impact he's really going to have in year one. Plus, I think Darren Waller was really their big pass-catching piece, and we'll see if Brian Daboll could get this Giants offense running like it was last year, but I have doubts, especially with how easy their schedule was last year, so...
No, for sure.
I'll give the Cowboys the win.
Week 2, you're staying at home. You're going at home, sorry. You're playing the Jets, hosting them.
I think this is going to be a win for them as well.
I'm going to give them a loss here.
I think it's going to be a very tough game, but...
I think this is going to be a very fun matchup for Week 2 especially. We're going to see really what the Jets are all about early on in the season. And I would not be shocked if they do beat the Cowboys. I'm expecting the Jets to have a very, very good run this year. I really like that roster, and, we'll get it. We'll go into that when we get into the division, but I'm really excited for the Jets this season.
Especially if they do end up bringing in Dalvin Cook, which it looks like very likely that they will.
Yeah, and it should be interesting.
Week 3 up against Arizona at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. Going to give the Cowboys a win here, and they're going to move on to 3-0 like the Eagles.
I'm going to give them a win here, bounce back from their loss, 2-1 on the season. Week 4, you go back home, you host the Patriots, and the Patriots this season, I'm not expecting much from them.
Me neither.
I'm going to give the Cowboys a win here. I think their offense and defense is going to be a little too much for the Patriots to handle.
Me too. So for me, they are 4-0. Now they go into Week 5, where I think they take their first loss at Levi's Stadium, a stadium where they've had troubles in the last few years. And I think the Niners beat them and move to 4-1 now, the Cowboys.
I agree. I think the Niners are going to win and drop the Cowboys down to 3-2 for me. Tough start here for Dallas.
Next up, another very hard game at SoFi Stadium against the Los Angeles Chargers, one of the teams I'm very high on this year. And I think it's going to be 2 losses in a row for the Cowboys going into the bye. 4-2.
I'm actually going to give them a win here. I think they are going to bounce back against the Niners. But it should be a very fun matchup. Plus, they have the extended rest, seeing as they're playing on a Monday. Monday, but whatever. And they play the Chargers down there. It's going to be a home game. And yeah, I'm going to give them a win right here before the bye.
And Week 7, yeah.
Week 7 early bye. I don't like this for the Cowboys.
Yeah. And they play the other Los Angeles team the week after. Too bad it's not in LA. They could have stayed for their bye week in LA. But no.
Enjoy the beaches there.
They get to go back home for their bye week and play the Los Angeles Rams. This should be another easy win for them. Well, I say another. They lost the week before. But coming off a bye against the Rams, this should be an easy win for them.
I agree. I see them taking the Rams here. I don't see it being much of a crazy game.
Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles, a game we went over earlier when we were going over the Eagles schedule. I give them a loss here, so
I also gave them a loss here.
5-3.
In Week 10, you're hosting the Giants team early on in the season. I'm going to give them another win here. They're home. Lost to the Eagles. I see them bouncing back and beating the Giants.
Yeah, I think they sweep the Giants as well this year, so they get their second win of the season against the Giants in Week 10. 6-3.
Week 11, you're going down to Carolina. I don't see Carolina Panthers posting much of a threat to them, especially that offense is very unknown. The Dallas defense is going to be a little too much for Carolina to handle, and I see them taking this game relatively easily.
Yeah, me too. I think Carolina is going to be one of those 500 teams this year. Maybe just below that, but hovering around 500 with Bryce Young. So yeah, I'm going to give the Cowboys the winner. 7-3 for them.
Going back home, you're hosting the Commanders. First time this season. Just because they are home, I'm going to actually edge Cowboys here, but it is a shorter week. If you're playing Sunday, you're going to Thursday. I will not be surprised if they drop this here. You know what? Actually, because of the shortened period, I'm actually going to give the Cowboys a loss here. I think the early bye is not going to do them any favors, especially playing like the Eagles before. It's going to sort of hurt them a little. And the shortened bye is not going to do them much favors, and they're going to take a loss here against Commanders. Sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders take it, especially with that short week being a division game, primetime game. It could happen, but I still think the Cowboys are going to be too much for the Commanders, and especially at home, I'll give it to the Cowboys. So 8-3 here for me.
2 primetime games in a row. You play the Seahawks right after another Thursday nighter. I think that's Thanksgiving. I don't know if that's Thanksgiving. Whatever. You play the Seahawks the week after, and once again on a Thursday. I think after losing to the Commanders, I don't see them losing again against the Seahawks, especially at home. I see them taking this one and going back on the win column.
I agree. 9-3, a very hot start for Dallas for me at least.
Oh man, 8-4, pretty good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Week 14, you're playing an Eagles roster. I had them actually splitting with the Eagles, so I'm gonna give them a win here in Week 14. But it's gonna be a very, very interesting matchup. I think it's gonna be a fun matchup, closer to the playoffs, primetime game. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, for me, I had them splitting, so I'm gonna give the Eagles the win here, and Cowboys take their first loss in a while.
Yeah,
Next up,
I don't hate it.
another very tough game at Highmark Stadium on the road in Buffalo. Could be actually in December, so it's gonna be a snowy game there. I think this is gonna be the Bills are gonna smack them.
I agree. I don't think Dallas likes playing in the snow,
Yeah.
especially with the weather that they have down there. And coming off a win against Philly, you know how Philly plays them. They're going to be very, very tired and beat up. I think the Bills are going to take this relatively easily.
I think it's gonna be a loss, like I said earlier, a smackdown. I think their 5th loss of the year and 2 in a row. And then next up, they go to from cold to hot to Miami at Hard Rock Stadium, and I think this is gonna be the tough stretch for Dallas, and they're gonna lose yet again. 3 losses in a row for Dallas.
I actually have them losing this one as well.
The media is gonna be going crazy. What's happening? Dak Prescott struggling, throwing picks.
I agree. I think they're going to take a little loss here against Miami. I don't see them. Not that it is going to be a fun game, but coming off the Bills game, and I think they're still going to be beat up from that Eagles game.
Mm-hmm.
They play the Eagles twice after the bye. That's not fun. That's really hard on the body, and I think it's just Dolphins' offense is going to be a little too much to handle this week. But then I do see them bouncing back 17 against Detroit.
Same here.
Saturday prime time football game.
Oh, Saturday. Shit, not even Saturday night.
Prime timer. It's just going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it will be. So that's 10-6 for me right now.
Same here, and then I have them sitting at 10-6, right? And here's the thing: they go to Washington the week after. If they're sitting at 10-6 and the Eagles are like 13 or 14 and whatever, I don't see them beating the Commanders. I don't see them playing starters against the Commanders. I see them resting, especially with that early bye.
Yeah, but at 10-6, they could want to be finish as the first wildcard team.
Yeah. To
try and play one of those Saints or whoever wins that division.
No, I agree. I get where you're coming from, and I agree. I think honestly, it depends on the circumstances here. But I'll give the Cowboys a win.
Yeah, I really wanted to give when we were going over the last game against the Commanders, I was like, I'll probably give the Commanders the home game. But looking at this, sitting at 10-6, it's a game they're gonna really need. So I'm gonna give the Cowboys a win. I'm gonna be 11-6 on the year, making them the second best team in the NFC East for a second year in a row.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have them literally sitting at 11-6 as well.
So we both have the same records for.
Same records.
Next up, we're gonna go over the New York Giants. Let's see what we got for them. I think last year was kind of a fluke year for them. I don't think they could recreate what they did last year.
No, I agree. It's not that it's been a fluke year. I think the Giants team actually did get better.
Yeah, no, they are better, but I'm just saying I think their schedule is very fortunate for them.
Yeah, it is. It's really tough.
So in week 1, who did they face? They faced the Dallas Cowboys, the game we went over earlier. I think they're going to start off 0-1.
Did the Giants do anything in the offseason? Sorry for...
Well, they did pick up Darren Waller.
They did.
They drafted Deontay Banks.
The freak athlete. They got Julian Hyatt, who's supposed to be really good.
Jalen Hyatt, but I'm not... I like Jalen Hyatt. I just think he's really a deep threat type of guy. But I don't know how he's going to translate to the NFL right away.
Yeah, no, I definitely... I understand.
Well, they did sign Daniel Jones to that big extension.
He got a lot of money for someone who is
not worth it.
But it is very top heavy. He's getting a lot of money early and then not as much later on.
So they could cut him very easily after the first couple of years.
Yeah, it's just like it's a lot of money for that quarterback. I would have given him more of like a prove-it deal, but that's just me.
He probably wasn't able to he wasn't willing to take it, and I don't think the Giants had much option after him. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. But Darren Waller, first.
I think Darren Waller.
One of their only passing options in that team, like they're certified studs at least. If he stays healthy, I think he can really be beneficial to that roster. It's just we'll see what they do, but they got a really tough schedule looking at it.
That's really what it's going to come down to with Waller. Like, I think he's a very talented and good player. It's just he has not been able to stay healthy. And, I don't know. Hopefully he can. I think he's going to have a really good year with New York. I think this is going to be, now that he's been traded, it's going to be like a realization for him that, that his career doesn't have much time left. And I think he'll be good with Dallas. New York.
No, for sure.
But yeah, week 1. Playing against the Dallas Cowboys. We did go over this game. I'm going to give them a loss. I'm sure you gave them a loss.
I gave them a loss as well. They're playing the Commanders. The Cowboys. My God. Playing the Cowboys very early on. I don't like this look. And I'm going to give them a loss here.
Week 2 against Arizona. I'm going to give them a win here. A terrible Arizona team.
I'm also going to give them a win here. I don't see Arizona doing much this season.
Yeah. Next up, week 3 against San Francisco. Another loss for them. Moving on to 1-2.
They have a really tough stretch coming up.
Yeah, tough start to the season for them.
They have a really tough stretch.
Yeah, they might be the worst team in this division. I'm not gonna lie.
This is really tough. Oh my God. Okay. Anyways, week 4 you play the Niners and you play the Seahawks.
Another loss for me.
I really like the Seahawks roster. I think it'll be a little too much to handle. Very underrated defense. Very, very good offense, and it's going to be a little too much for the Giants early on.
And then next up, another very hard... Wow, this is... Compared to their schedule last season, this is very
different. Night and day, man.
Next up, the Dolphins, I think, and like we said earlier, a very good team, very good offense, and a really improved defense. In secondary, especially with Ramsey coming in, Deshaun Elliott, and guys like that. And I think it's another loss for New York, 1-4 on the season.
Here's the thing, Red. I think they're going to take one of these games, especially one of these 4 games this stretch here. I think they're going to take one. And I see the trap being the Dolphins. They're going to be coming off 2 losses in a row. I can see them putting up a bit more fight. Dayball's going to get them really running and rolling, and I see them taking a win here against the Dolphins.
I don't see it. I still think they're going to be 1-4. And... as well, they're all, besides the Seahawks game, they're all road games as well, so it's very rough.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I'm going to give them the win here, though, in week 6 against, out of these games, this is the tough game I'm going to give them. It's against Buffalo. Brian Daboll going back against his former team. I think this is the one where they could get
Brian Daboll's prove-it game,
exactly.
Showing Buffalo what they're missing.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, but, I mean, I gave it to the Dolphins. I don't think they're going to beat the Bills here. Give the Bills the win here. The Bills are going to be a very good football team this year.
Nah, they're definitely big-time underdogs, the Giants, at this game. I just think out of these games, they're probably going to have to win one. They're going to not have to, but I think they're going to. They can sneak one out, and I think that's the one that it could be. Next up against the Commanders at MetLife.
Since it's in MetLife, I'm going to give the Giants the win. Just be that.
This is hard with this one. I think it's going to be the Commanders are going to win 2-5. For the Giants.
Damn, you got them sitting at 2-5. Oh God, I got them sitting at 3-4.
Which actually not bad for.
Not too bad here.
Next up against the Jets, obviously at MetLife, because that's where both teams play. And this is a very good Jets team. I think the Jets are gonna take this, and the Giants are gonna be back to their former selves and be 2-6.
I'm actually gonna give the Giants the win here. I think this is gonna be a fun matchup. They always play each other really fun. This is a really good game if anyone wants to go watch one. The fan bases are both wild, so it should be interesting. I'm just going to give the Giants the win here. I see them edging the Jets. Whatever. I have something in my gut telling me just Giants are taking this one. Weird feeling. I couldn't tell you why. And New York's got to lose a few games.
It could be. Battle of New York, I feel like the form of the teams really goes out of the window, and whoever's really good on the day, it's going to win the game. So next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders on the road at Allegiant Stadium, and I think another loss for the Giants, 2-7 on the year. Very rough season for them.
I'm actually going to edge Giants here, give them a win against the Raiders. The thing with the Raiders is I don't know what their offense is going to be like.
especially with Jimmy G and
especially with
all
Jimmy
the question
G.
marks.
Is he gonna play? Is he not? Did he pass his physical yet? Like who knows?
No, he did pass the physical.
Pass
yeah, like last week. He
okay, he
passed
did pass it. I didn't need. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So Jimmy G is the quarterback, but like, I don't know how good is this. How good is he gonna be? Who knows? We'll see.
I think the Raiders are gonna be a similar team to last year. I don't see much of a difference. Him and Derek Carr are basically the same type of quarterback.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a downgrade, but
Mm-hmm.
anyways, moving on. Week 12, you're playing Dallas on the road.
Lost yet again.
I'm gonna have to give them a loss, bring them back down to 500, sitting at 5-5.
You're 5-5.
I have them at 5-5.
I have them at 2-8. This is definitely the most different we've had
That's
any
crazy.
team. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Giants are just gonna have a big hangover.
Sorry about that, boys. Technical difficulties on our part, and anyways, back into it. Sorry, we're at the week 11 against the Commanders. I said they're gonna take a loss here. I see them splitting with the Commanders.
I don't know if I added the loss yet, but I'm gonna give them a loss as well. But what are you? Week 11, 9-2, so yeah, it makes sense. About 2-9.
I got them sitting at 5-6. We're good.
Next up, at home against the Patriots, I think they finally get a win here against the Pats to put them at 3-9.
I agree. I'm also gonna give them a win here, moving them back to 500 at 6-6. 6-6. A little home stretch here. Week 14, you're hosting. Sorry, week 13 is the bye. My bad. This is really good for this team. Very late buys. I really like late buys. I'm coming off the bye. You're hosting the Packers. I don't like the Packers roster this season. I'm gonna give the Giants a win here. And the
I
Giants
agree.
Packers.
I
Prime time football game.
I also think the Packers are going to be like a 500 team, and I think this is where the Giants can finally get back on track and get some sort of something going. And I think they get their second win in a row and move on to 4-9 on the season. Next up, they got the New Orleans Saints on the road. I think the Saints are probably going to win their division, so I think they're going to win this game, and the Giants are going to move to 4-10.
I'm actually going to give the Giants this one, giving them a little streak here, 3 in a row. Beating the Saints. It's going to be a really tough game. Very tough matchup here. Saints are a super underrated team. And I think Giants are going to be rolling here, moving towards the playoffs. They're going to realize they have to win some games, especially seeing their stretch late on. It's not fun playing the Eagles twice.
Yeah. So yeah, next up against the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field.
On Christmas.
Oh yeah, it is on Christmas. Loss easily. 4-11.
Yeah, I don't see them beating the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field, so I'm gonna give them a loss as well.
Week 17.
8-7.
I got them at 4-11, and they're about to be 5-11 because they're gonna beat the Rams.
I also see them beating the Rams. It's just the Rams roster. We don't like them. We went over it last video, and yeah, we don't like
Not
the
too
Rams this
impressed.
season, not too impressed. Week 18, playing the Eagles. Here's my thing, right? If the Eagles have the 1 seed, I can see the Giants winning this one. Considering that they're 9-7 going into this game, they're gonna need it. I think they're gonna be fighting for a wild card spot at this point in the season. And also depending on what the Eagles do, right? If the Eagles send out their roster to clinch that 1 seed, I see them taking a loss. But if the Eagles rest the starters, play the second team, should be a fun little matchup for the Giants, and they can take it and potentially make another playoff run.
Yeah, and the way it went,
I'm gonna give them a loss, just basing it that the Eagles need to win this game.
for the way it went in the schedule that we did, the Eagles were gonna have to win this game to get the 1 seed. So I think they're gonna play their starters, and the Giants are gonna take a loss here and move to 5-12 on the season, and have no chance of making the playoffs, and are probably gonna finish last in the division.
I actually have them sitting at 9-8 on the year.
So they could, with how weak the NFC is, that could get them a playoff spot. Do you think it will?
At 9-8 is gonna be interesting. I don't know if it will necessarily, just because I'm trying to think, right? Like you got the Vikings, you got the Lions potentially being a 10-6, 10-7 football team.
Cowboys
are definitely a wild card spot. Then you got the Seahawks also in contention there. And then the NFC South, I think it's just going to be one of them clinching. So it's going to be tough for the Giants. It really will. It won't be easy, but we shall see. And I got them sitting a little better than Brandon does. So Giants fans, you know what to come to.
Not me.
But anyways, let's move on to the last team of the division. We got the Washington Commanders. What do you think about their offseason? They got rid of, finally, Dan Snyder. He's gone.
Yeah, that was their biggest move of any team in the offseason, getting rid of Dan Snyder.
They signed Emmanuel Forbes. I like him as a corner, that depth little piece, playing alongside of St. Jude.
I think he was kind of a reach, though, in the draft where they picked him, but from everything I've heard from training camp, he's been very good. Well, when it is Sam Howell on the other side, it's not hard to look good, I don't think. But he is one of those guys who is a kind of a ball hawk, gets a lot of picks at corner. We'll see how he ends up in the NFL, but the Commanders look like they really do like him as a player.
No, for sure. And also another guy I want to talk about, Jacoby Brissett. Finding a new home in Washington.
Yeah.
Do you think he starts?
If it was me running the team, I would have him starting, but I think Sam Howell will be the starter for them.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. As much as what Brissett did last season was good, we don't.
You know, I'm a big Jacoby.
I know you're a big Jacoby guy, so but I don't think he's gonna get the job. They're very high on Sam Howell down there.
I also expect Jahan Dotson to have a really good year last year. He had an underrated rookie year last year. Early on in the season, he got a lot of touchdowns early on and was just a very good option for Carson Wentz. And then he did get injured, so that kind of slowed down his pace, and he just kind of slowed down a bit with the injuries. But I think Jahan Dotson, with a whole training camp and healthy season, could be very good for them.
Another underrated signing I wanted to mention just quickly, Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really good for this offense. He's going to have a lot of fun with it.
It's going to be night and day from what they were last year.
Exactly. Sam Howell is going to really mold into a good player. It's going to be under Eric Bieniemy. I think that's the perfect OC for that. And we'll see what he can do with this. I mean, he definitely has the pieces.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be put up or shut up with him now.
Exactly.
He finally gets a chance to run an offense.
Exactly, so we'll see it. But anyways, let's move on to the schedule here.
Week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals.
Like I said earlier, I think Cardinals are one of the worst teams in the NFL.
And it's going to be a win for the Washington Commanders in Week 1.
Yeah.
Next up, Denver in Week 2.
A mile high, baby.
I have a hard time judging this because I don't know, I feel like they're in the same tier. These two teams, like two teams that are probably not good enough to make the playoffs, but they're just on the cusp.
They're on the cusp. They're right there. They're missing one or two pieces.
So I'm gonna give Denver the win here, and not Chicago. Washington's gonna move on to 1-1.
I'm also gonna edge the Broncos here just because they're at Mile High. Teams don't really play good at Mile High just because of the altitude and whatnot. And an edge Broncos here.
I think the Broncos should be a lot better than they were last year.
I agree.
Next up, Week 3 against Buffalo. Another very tough. Well, this is a lot tougher than the last week, but a tough game. I think they're going to take a loss here and move to 1-2 against the Bills.
I agree. I'm also giving them a loss here, moving on to 1-2 on the season, and it doesn't get any easier because Week 4 is going to Lincoln Financial Field to play the Eagles for the first time, which is good in a way. You want to play these guys early, get it out the way. But I think the Eagles team is going to be a little too much to handle for the Commanders.
This was a game where I gave the Commanders a win, actually, when we did the Eagles. This was their first loss.
I know they split with the Commanders. I honestly couldn't remember if it was now or later on.
This is the one where I give the Commanders a win and they move to 2-2. So you have them losing here?
I have them losing here, but they're going to take it later. They take it later on. Anyways, Week 5, you go back home, you play Chicago Bears.
Win.
Everyone knows how I feel about Chicago Bears. I'm giving them a win here.
3-2 on the year for me.
2-3 for me. Week 6.
Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the Dome. This is a tough matchup. I think I'm gonna edge.
This should be a fun one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna edge the Commanders here, and they're gonna move to 4-2.
I'm also gonna edge Commanders here. I do think it's gonna be a fun little matchup here. Bring them back to 500, and moving on to Week 7, you go to MetLife, play the Giants.
I had them sweeping the Giants, so another win for me. 5-2.
I don't remember if I have the Giants sweeping them or I have them splitting. I want to say I have them splitting.
Yeah, I think you said splitting.
So because they're playing in MetLife, I'm gonna give them a loss. And moving on to Week 8 where they host the Philadelphia Eagles. I have them splitting with the Eagles, so we're going to give them a win here.
I'm going to give them a loss here. I think it's the one where they
lose. I got them sitting at 4-4 at Week 8.
I have them at 5-3. I think Commanders fans would be very happy with that because they're definitely in contention for playoffs with that type of record, especially in the NFC. So next up at Gillette Stadium against the Pats, I think they win and move to 6-3.
I also got them beating the Pats. I think the Pats are going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year.
Yeah, very, very possible. Although I really like their defense, this could be Bill Belichick's last year.
I don't think it's his last. I think Bill Belichick's going to retire before they fire him. But I think he might retire.
Because he might just see there's no hope in this roster.
Yeah.
Next up against Seattle, Week 10. And here's where I'm going to see a bit of a drop-off with Washington. I think they're going to lose here and move to 6-4.
I also see them taking a loss here. They got them sitting at 500, 5-5 for me. Week 11, you're hosting the Giants. I said they were splitting, so I'm going to give them a win.
I'm going to give them a win here. 7-4 on the year.
Week 12, you're going down to AT&T Stadium.
Against Dallas, I gave them a loss here.
Spoke about them, Dallas Cowboys. I'm also giving them a loss.
So 7-5 for Washington. Not bad. Still in the hunt. Next up against Miami, I think they're going to take another loss. Two weeks in a row, and now this is where Washington's really starting to come back to reality.
I'm also giving them a loss here. They're going to move below 500 for me at 6-7.
For me, they're one game above 500. Basically, just 500 football team at this point. Then they're on a bye, week 14, a later bye, stuff that teams really do like. And then they come out with an easier game, playing the Rams at SoFi, and I will give them a win here.
I'm also going to edge them to win this one. Moving on to 7-7 on the season. They're playing the Jets at MetLife, week 16. I think this Jets team is going to be trying to make a run for the playoffs. It's going to be a little too much to handle at this point. And I'm going to give them a loss.
I'm also going to give them a loss, and they're going to be 8-7.
I got them sitting at 7-8 right now. Week 17, you're hosting the Niners. Same thing as the Jets. I think the Niners are going to be making a push for the playoffs at this point of the season. And they're going to be a little too much to handle for the Commanders. And give them a loss.
Yeah, here I'm going to give the Commanders a win. I did give them the win in the one where I went over the Niners schedule. The Commanders are usually a team that the Niners do have problems with when we do play them. So I think they are going to beat us, and they're going to move the Commanders to 9-7. And then week 18, another game we went over earlier against the Cowboys. I'm going to give the Cowboys a win. So Commanders lose this one and move to 9-8, which wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders finish 9-8. That's the type of team they got right now.
I got the Commanders dropping to the Cowboys as well and finishing at 7-10 on the year. A little bit more losses than Brandon, but yeah, no, this is an interesting matchup. Week 18, I can see them also taking this, depending what Dallas does. Like we mentioned earlier, honestly, when you're playing division rivals in Week 18, it really depends on where they're at in the division, who they play, and you always play your division rivals hard. And if Dallas is resting starters, make a push for the playoffs. Who knows? We'll see. But I got the Commanders sitting at 7-10 on the season.
So who did you have? We'll go over it now. Going over our division, just to give a refresher for you guys. So anyway, I got the Eagles winning the division at 13-4. Then the Cowboys coming second at 11-6. The Commanders coming third at 9-8, possibly making the playoffs. I'm not too sure yet. And then at 5-12, the New York Giants coming last.
So I also got the Eagles at 13-4 and the Cowboys at 11-6. So Eagles take that one. However, I got the Giants sitting at 9-8 and the Commanders sitting at 7-10.
So you think the Commanders are going to be last in the division? Could definitely happen. It was last year the same. I just think the Giants are going to have a reality check this year. I just don't think they're going to be as good as last year.
I can also see that happening. I don't hate that take. I just think the Giants team is... I don't know. I like Daboll as head coach. I think he's going to be able to get a few more wins than we predict.
I do too, but it just... At a certain point, the talent, especially at the NFL level, the talent is just going to have to...
It's going to have to be there. And
it's really not on that roster.
No. Anyways, guys, that sums up our NFC East prediction. And next week we're going to go over the NFC South, just wrap up the whole NFC and figure that out. And expect a video on the Saints or the Falcons.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, one of those two teams.
So the Saints or Falcons? You know what?
I think the Falcons is probably going to be.
Drop it down in the comments below. Whatever you guys suggest, we'll go over.
Who would you guys rather see a video on? The Saints, the Falcons, maybe the Panthers you guys want to see. Maybe the Bucks.
Maybe the Bucks.
But I think probably Atlanta or New Orleans would be the popular.
That would be the bet. Yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you guys for the support. Really appreciate you guys. And that was our NFC East predictions. See you guys next time.
See ya.